Hello, everyone, and welcome to this conversation presented by White House Custom Color.
Are you trying to mute me?
No, it's just real loud, and I can't.
I sold Amazon when it was $25.
Listening to listen, not listening to respond.
Yes! Oh, thank you for that. David, tell me who you are.
My name is David Campli, and I operate along with my lovely wife and daughter Campli Photography in Malvern, Pennsylvania.
You work with your wife and your daughter?
Wow, imagine that. My wife and I have been running the business for 30 plus years, and my daughter just joined the organization in August when she lost her job in the hospitality world. And so now it's crazy, not the whole family, but three of us in one studio place.
How old is your daughter?
Christy is 27, turning 28, and has caught me up to speed on so many things that I didn't know, which was fantastic.
So it's kind of been, now, I'd like to ask you about some of this stuff because I didn't realize this, but I'd like to know more about this because a lot of times, like I talk to a lot of husband and wife teams, right?
Yeah.
But to have another family member, a child thrown into the mix, to me, that makes it that much more interesting. My wife and I have owned a studio for 20 years. Our daughter's 11. She's already starting to help out on shoots, and she wants to get into Photoshop and Lightroom a little bit, and I see that happening. And so I kind of want to pick your brain a little bit for my own reasons, but also because I think it's an interesting dynamic. I always think it's an interesting dynamic when a husband and wife work together, because we did for 10 years real close. The last 10 years hasn't been as close because I've been with White House. So tell me about how that works right now. It's only been a couple months, but how's it been?
Well, it's only been a couple of months, and the first 3 or 4 days were probably gonna end the relationship of the daughter working in the studio from both sides. I mean, she was like, I don't know if this is gonna work, and my side was like, I'm not so sure this is gonna work. But 2 weeks in, things started changing, and of course, this was all prompted by COVID, as we lost we had a full-time studio manager. And she decided not to come back to work after she got married and pregnant during COVID. And so, and that was fine with us because business was slow. But then we got slamming. We started slamming in the end of June. And about a month later, Christy came on board, and we really, really needed somebody to help, because from our standpoint, prior to COVID and prior to Christy, Valerie and I ran the business from 2 separate rooms of our studio, which is a brick and mortar small town studio. But she did all the financials, all the bookkeeping, all the bill paying, and stayed out of my Photoshop. And I did the opposite. I couldn't tell you which way to write a check. I mean, only if I buy a camera, then I know how to write a check. But otherwise,
then all of a sudden you remember.
Yeah. But so we had a great relationship working in the studio. We throw things at each other every once in a while from across the studio, but it's been 30 years, so we know how to do it. And we've had non-family members working in the studio for years, so we would calm our screaming matches down. But then when Christy came in, she really, a 27, 28-year-old coming into a business. She was in hospitality. She was a restaurant general manager. So she had systems that she knew that we had no idea of. And she had to learn our systems, but she brought a whole new level of organization and flow charts. And, the word Calendly was not in my vocabulary before August. And we now use to book every appointment we book.
Right. Yeah. So like little things like that, right? And those things add up too. And all of a sudden you have a completely streamlined, updated workflow, right? tell me this. I'm curious as to what you said something earlier. You said 4 days was a mess. 2 weeks, everything was kind of turned around. What happened between 4 days and 2 weeks?
Well, I think it was a combination of one, moving from South Carolina to moving home with us. All right. So now we're living in the same house.
Goodness.
A lot of stuff going on, you know, just getting her head in place with that, and us with her living back in our house again. I mean, she's, you know, she hasn't lived at home for 7 years. We haven't had anybody living at home for 5. So one person back in the house, and then trying to figure out, well, what would the work schedule be? Should I get up early? Should I get up late? When should I work? Because when she was in the restaurant world, you know, they start around 11, I think, and they finish up around 11.
Right.
In my world, I start around 5:30 a.m. and I finish up around 5:30 p.m. and then I shut it off. But so, you know, we had to figure all of that out to begin with. And then she had to realize, and I had to realize several things. You know, it still is an employee, and you have to switch off the dad, daughter, mom, daughter to, you know, coworkers.
Right.
Took a little bit, but we're on a really great stride now. I mean, we're having a wonderful time. She's off today. She just took the day off because it's really nice, and she wanted to go hiking.
That's a perk.
And then she said, "Hey, Dad, can you take care of this job and this job and this job, and this needs to be done, and you're way behind on orders at the lab. You better get those out. Make sure you don't spell anything wrong today."
Yeah. It sounds like she's fitting right in.
Yeah, no problems at all.
That's actually really good to hear. Tell me this. Why did you guys get slammed?
Well, so the beginning of COVID, we are weddings and events. We are family portraits of all sorts. We are senior high school portraits, and we are commercial corporate work. So weddings, as everyone knows, were topsy-turvy for months and months and months, and they started getting sorted out. It was a lot of phone calls and a lot of panicked brides and all that. And that sort of started getting sorted out by around April or May, by the end of May, that was, okay, we're having a wedding, we're not having a wedding, we're having 50 people, we're doing it on our original date, or we're not, or we're bumping to 2021. And then in everything else, pretty much everything was really quiet. But then June 10th was our opening in Pennsylvania, when we were allowed to shoot outdoors and open our storefront with limited access. And we have a contract, sort of a loose contract with one high school, and it's a private Catholic high school for girls in the upper end of tuition, more than my car. And so, so we've had it for 7 years. And so it's anywhere between 90 and 100. This year was 97 girls who we photograph all summer long, coming into the rising senior year. And those were scheduled, I would say 50% of those were scheduled before shutdown. And then 50% of those were scheduled, on the books from June through end of July. We usually do a 8-week window where we photograph them. They all get a 1-hour shoot. So it started happening. They started booking. They started coming back on the calendar. And June 10th, we were off and running to, we got to shoot. And we're doing 10 to 12 per week, which is, we're doing anywhere from 5 or 6 a day for 2 to 3 days a week. And we needed processing, we needed help. We couldn't do help with shoots this year, but we needed processing, conversions, editing, culling, and then communications back to set up all the new world of sales, which was, holy crap, we were doing in-person sales for the last 25 years, including the seniors. And now what are we going to do? So you're looking at my Zoom room, which we invented I don't know, March the 25th, and started getting accustomed to using it. So we had to fit all those Zoom calls in for all those 100 girls.
Yeah.
And so it got crazy. And then actually family portraits went nutso too. We do beach portraits in New Jersey. That went really well. So
It did?
all happening this summer. Yeah, it went really well.
Well, so I don't want to talk as though the virus or the pandemic or COVID doesn't exist anymore, because I know it certainly does.
Yeah, it does, big time.
It's still a thing. It's still a big thing for a lot of people in a lot of places too. What if you look back right now? So we're in mid-October as we're recording this. But as you look back, what's the best thing? Maybe sound a little strange to word it this way, but regarding like silver linings or something that you didn't see coming, what's the best thing that happened as a result of COVID?
Well, I mean, it is a silver lining that we got one of our kids to move home. You know, they're all around the country, Ohio, Denver, Colorado, and Charleston, South Carolina. So we got one of those to be home with us for who knows how long, but for a little while. So that was fantastic. From the personal side, you know, we would FaceTime with our kids whenever somebody wanted something or whatever to catch up. We have one grandchild, one grandson. We started doing family Zoom times once to two, maybe 2 times a week, starting back in March. And part of that was a little bit selfish for me because I wanted to practice my Zoom skills.
Oh, sure.
You know, for clients, and I'm like, you guys, we gotta Zoom so I can get better at this. But of course, it was really fun to connect with all of us at one time.
Right.
From the business standpoint, I think one of the best things that happened from the business standpoint, and I don't want to minimize the fact that we are nowhere near doing the volume of business that we did, you know, pre-COVID.
Sure.
Like, you know, when we lost 25 full weddings to some smaller amount. So there was still a big hit. But the family portraits that we've taken and the First Holy Communion portraits and the kids portraits all had a much higher average of spending and didn't think twice about doing that. So why? I mean, the only thing I can come up with is they couldn't go to spring break in Jamaica. So they had an extra $5,000 or $8,000 or whatever it cost to take a family to Jamaica. And they said, we're putting it in our family portrait and we're going to do some wall displays. And, you know, we're going to do the framed gallery wrap all the way instead of just a luster unmounted print in an 8x10. Yeah. Boom. There goes the sales.
Well said.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, it hasn't been all doom and gloom, even from a business perspective, right? There have been some pluses.
There have been definitely some pluses to it. My corporate relationships, while they're not doing as many headshots and lawyers and accountants coming in for, you know, updates as much, the relationships are still out there. The thing that is the most depressing to me is if I look to my left and I look out the window on the second floor of my studio, there's a restaurant directly across the street, which was the hub of my part of town. And they closed up and took down their sign 10 days ago. And it's been like a ghost town in my little town.
So they're done.
They're done and gone. Now they're lucky enough to have a second operation in a different town that's doing really well. 85% of business is what they're retaining. But the one across the street from me was only doing less than 30% of their business. So they made a hard decision. And in the summertime and in the spring and fall, when it's nice out and they have 30 or 40 people sitting, you know, al fresco, having their dinner and lunch, those people look directly across the street and see my studio. That's a good little advertisement.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That was nice.
Yeah, really good. Given
that, then, as you look out the next 6 to 12 months, how do you, and I want to ask this, I want to get your answer both personally and business again, because I feel like that's kind of what we're doing here, which I really like. How do you, as a business owner, first think about and plan and try to project for the next 6 to 12 months? And then I'd like you to answer that. How do you do that as a husband, as a father as well? Like both, hit it from both of those angles.
Yeah, well, so from the business side of it, you know, 2 months ago, a month ago, I turned 60, right? So I thought, well, when I turn 60, I'll start notching back, actually going out on wedding shoots. Maybe I'll be able to, at that point, not cover the entire wedding, but have my 2 young guys that work with me do the receptions. Or maybe I would just not take as many, right, after 60. So our average was about 25, maybe 30 weddings a year at the most. So maybe we'll, you know, let's cut that down to under 20. Let's cut that down maybe to 18, and then into 2021 we'll go a little bit, so on. Well, guess what? We had 20 weddings that have now moved from 2020 to 2021 or 2022. So we're already at 25 weddings that I'm covering next year. So I started buying into mirrorless so I can not kill my shoulders and my neck as much, which I'm really happy about. That's a whole nother topic, right? I've decided that, there is going to be some business, but every single portrait client is, I'm not sure, you know, it's really hard to forecast. Is this person really want to do a family portrait because of COVID and they love their family and they want to do it, but they just don't have the means to be able to do it at the level I would love them to be? Or is it, you know, just like some of the ones where I hung lots and lots of canvas wraps just last week because he couldn't travel and he couldn't go anywhere and he spent his money on pictures. That's great. So to answer the business question, I have no idea how to forecast what we're going to do next year. Like we do a thing every spring with bunny rabbits in the studio that we always do Easter week. It's the bunny thing. Lots of photographers do it. Should we plan to do it this year? You know, 2021? I don't know. It got canceled in 2020. But it got canceled in 2020, and then we offered all those families I would call it a porch portrait but it wasn't really one of those porch portrait things that everybody started hearing about around the country. It was more like when we're allowed to, I'll come over to the house and we'll do some family portraits. And we started doing those. We had about 10 out of our 35 or 40 bunny sessions actually take advantage and have me come around. One of them was one of the largest sales of the year. So I'm like, all right, maybe we shouldn't do bunny portraits anymore because we did better. We did better with the way.
We did better with that.
But I don't know. But you know, they came in still wanting a bunny rabbit. So.
But it's adjusting on the fly, right? I mean, that's where we're at right now.
That's exactly where we're at. And then from the personal side, I mean, thankfully I've been in business. This is our 30th year. As a matter of fact, September 30th, just 2 weeks ago, was our opening date in 1990. So 30 years right now this month. We were, I'll call it fortunate enough because I don't think we knew that we were smart enough, but now I'm going to say, we were smart enough to buy our building.
Right.
You know, it just worked out. We bought our building, and so we own it. And we, you know, we're really fortunate and ran a business for a long time. So if we have the down year from the business that then spills over to the personal side, we'll be all right. We'll be fine. You know, we thought through COVID really early and got the credit line just in case. And we had a credit line settlement table in the backyard of the studio back in April 1st, I think it was, signed all the papers with rubber gloves and, you know, just about had a hazmat suit on. But in case we need it, which we haven't had to do that yet, but in case we need it, that's there. But and we live close by. in a good community. I'm more worried for the community at whole with, what will happen to real estate? Our area happens to be booming. Will it just decrease? What will happen to all the vacant storefronts, and how will that make our town look? I'm also this year's president of our local business association. So, I gotta keep all the store owners somewhat happy with what's going on, and we can't have any events.
Well, I mean, do you find it hard to, because I feel like you're in a position in a lot of different ways. I mean, you have to have a lot of face time with a lot of different people, right? Your clients, your family, both as a studio owner, partner, as well as boss to some degree, maybe with your daughter and whoever else you have coming in and helping you on shoots, with local businesses in your business owners association. Do you find it difficult to be happy? Or positive, I mean, like, because you're in a position, you're in a center. It sounds like you're in the center or near the center of a lot of wheels, and it's on you maybe to have a certain attitude and a certain outlook, right?
Yeah. Everyone that I've talked to throughout all of COVID's many ups and downs, I'm no different than any of the other, I think, American or worldwide people, which is you get good days and bad days. You get excited about something, and then you get really depressed about something and want to just crawl in a hole for a while. And I've been through that, up and down. But I will say, I think for me personally, just my personality, one of the things that keeps me way higher than low is just knowing that I have to keeping the pressure, I guess, of myself, knowing that I have to have conversations with people, look brightly, and, be more positive than negative. As a matter of fact, that's a great segue to a perfect signature I saw on an email the other day that came in from a client. And her signature at the bottom before her name, everybody puts regards or whatever, cheers. This lady had B positive, comma, test negative.
Oh, great.
Like that. I'm stealing it.
So great.
B positive, test negative. I mean, the business people that I talk to around town, some of them are doing great, some of them are doing horribly. And so I try to be the cheerleader when I can. A lot of the stuff on our social media, on my social media, both personally and from our business, over COVID was, if I saw a special at the restaurant up the street for that particular day, I would just post it right to my story. And so I was trying to promote for other people. If I saw a real estate listing from one of our local town guys, it was posted right to my story, so that people were seeing me promote other people, because I think that's the relationships that a town like ours, like is every other, small town,
right?
That's what it takes to keep everybody doing what they're doing and happy and sharing whatever good fortune that there is left out there.
Beyond promoting positivity, because I can appreciate that. I think that's maybe more necessary than ever. But beyond that, you've been doing this for over 30 years.
Yeah.
What's the first thing that comes to your mind as a mentor? Put on your mentor hat right now for anyone that's listening. And regardless of whether anyone else has been doing this for 30 days, 30 weeks, 30 months, 30 years or beyond, what sort of things, and not even talking about this year in particular, specifically, but just in general, what sort of things do you want people to know or think people should know?
Like mentoring as in young people coming into the photography world?
Sure, but it might apply to anybody.
Okay.
In my experience.
Well, I think I have to segment it a little bit. If I segment it into the business side of things.
Yeah.
It has held so true for 30 years for us that doing many different little parts of the photography world has proven to be a smart idea for us. I didn't know that going in. I just thought, oh, I like doing some corporate work and some industrial work, and I like doing headshots. I love people. I love shooting some weddings, but not too many. I love doing family portraits. They're super lucrative. But then you got to deal with too many Christmas cards, and thank God White House has fixed that finally. So now they can pick their own. But being a little bit of the hometown studio, that if somebody walks in the door with an old copy and restoration job, we're still going to take it.
Sure.
The only thing that we really don't take is something that I either don't have the right equipment to do, or that's just really out of the wheelhouse of possibility. But I mean,
Right.
I watched an awesome webinar that John Hartman gave on painting light, and I just ordered my tether gear. I never shoot tethered. I just ordered a bunch of gear to tether my laptop and my camera, and I'm going to start with my own car and just shoot painting with light. I like that. Was so exciting to me to try something.
You're going to have a ball. You're going to love it.
We did it in photography school in 1978 with hot lights and with a view camera. With half of your listeners they've never heard of a view camera, but it's going to be a blast to try something new. So I think the versatility of being the hometown studio has proven to be good. I see my friends that are in weddings only, and they're struggling right now beyond belief. I see my friends that are in portraits that have, it's a competitive world of portraits. So it's always hard to get more and more portraits. I mean, we never have enough of them for me.
From a business standpoint, diversification. Exactly.
100%. And relationships are what has been the key for me to continue to drive the business is, I know the banker, I know the realtor, I know the plumber, I know them all.
Yeah.
They all know me. And if somebody says, I need a photographer, hopefully they're going to say 338 East King Street, Malvern, Campli Photo.
Right.
From the personal side, that's much harder for me because, like, if you ask my family, my wife, my kids, they always talk about, Dad's off to work at 7 o'clock in the morning and he's back at 7 o'clock at night, and that's the way my career has always been in business. So, but I feel like the working your family relationships and dynamics and all of that sort of stuff becomes super important to be a whole person. But one of the things most every photographer I know, and I've shared a lot of conversations with a lot of photographers, they're like me, which is started off as a hobby, it became a profession, it became a business, and it's still a hobby. 30 years later, it's still like one of my favorite hobbies. So if I go on vacation, I can't wait to take pictures of what I'm going on vacation to do. But you need an outlet. You always need an outlet. And for me, like, my outlet has always been woodworking and building stuff. And so when I'm busy, I even need the outlet even more. Like when I'm busy at work, I have to carve, a 4-hour little block of time of when I can go home and build something or nail something or hammer something. That's my thing. I don't really fish, and I don't golf, and I don't play that many sports, although I just try to work out when I can. But so woodworking becomes my thing.
Tell me this last thing, because I wasn't thinking about this, but hearing you talk, it strikes me that you have had and still do have a very strong work ethic. You come across to me as somebody that works really, really hard, and you are. I think you're enjoying the fruits of your labor, right? Like over the last 30 years, and I think that's well deserved. Where does your work ethic come from?
Oh, my dad was, 3 jobs constantly. Was blue collar all the way. Had one job from 8 to 4. Would come home and eat dinner. My mom was stay-at-home mom and had dinner ready for him so he could go out to job number 2 after work.
Really,
and then
yeah.
on the weekends, the weekends was job number 3 on Saturdays and Sundays. And the interesting part was they all revolved around fixing stuff. He did maintenance, he did roofing, he did building, he did all sorts of things like that. So the building part of me is wired, I think, from that. But I watched him do that, and I have 3 older brothers who were all they do the same thing. We get up, we go to work. But I still do like to play. We've had great family vacations. I mean, that's important to me. And my wife, who is sitting right behind the backdrop back here, so if you see something getting thrown at my head right about now, it's going to be from her. But she's the one who forces the vacation time, puts it on the calendar. I complain about it, and then I have the best time ever when I actually go.
Yep.
So you got to have that. If you're lucky enough to have that in a relationship, that's what it's all about. Is the yin and yang of her saying, no, we're doing this. We're going to Italy and we're taking the whole family. We did that when I turned 50. I'm like, oh my God,
work hard, play hard.
You got to do it.
I love it. Tell us, where can people find you? Give us your internet details.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So the studio website is Campli Photo, spelled the regular way, CAMPLIPHOTO.com. And then on social media, on Instagram, we're Campli Photo. And on Facebook, we're Campli Photography. That's a whole topic of, oh my gosh, how many different social media outlets should we be on? At the beginning, I think I had a business card at one point that had, every imaginable, the Twitter, the Instagram, the Facebook. I took all of that off my last round of business cards. Do you want to find me? I don't know if you remember the Zuckerberg Facebook movie. I forget what it was called, but it just
Social Network, yeah.
Yeah, the Social Network, that was the name of it. And it just had his name, and it had some other stuff on there, which I won't say on a family show like yours. But that's it. No phone number, no anything. You'll find me if you want to find me.
Yeah. If you need to find me, you had to have a 5x7 business card there for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
David, I really appreciate your time. Thank you for joining me. This has been a pleasure.
You are so welcome. I always have a blast with you guys. Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, man. Until next time.
All right. Take care.
Hey, guys. Thanks for watching this conversation presented by White House Custom Color on YouTube. Be sure to check out our other content and click that subscribe button right there. Right. Right there. It's there somewhere.